Hello everyone, Dana here from the Board Game Barbecue. Unfortunately, during this episode, we did have some technical issues, but we hope you still enjoy it. A special thanks to Craig Somerton for joining us, and thanks for listening.
Hello and welcome to the Board Game Barbecue, episode 331, brought to you by Advent Games, More Than Meeples, and our patrons. 331, that is one more than 330, just in case you wanted to do the maths on that. And it is still our month of Aussie designers, so our all Aussie month. Dana, what's the actual name for this month?
Oceania month.
Oceania month. I probably should have got that right before I started recording. But if that's the worst thing that goes wrong, then it's going to be a pretty good episode, because not only am I joined by the very lovely Dana. How you going, Dana?
Hello.
You know, it's going to call you Dana for the first 6 months, and see if anyone, just to see if anyone corrected me.
But I fairly quickly said banana.
Yeah, I was
fairly quickly, so it just doesn't work. That's why I say banana, because a lot of people call me Dana.
Yeah, well, do you get your name misspelled very often?
All the time.
Yeah, I got my name. Check this out. I got my name spelled Conner.
Conner. Yeah. I have seen it spelt like that too.
Have you?
Oh, yeah, I've got a really funny story about my name. Yeah, right. I could tell it. I'll wait till our guest.
Wait till we. I'm not going to really. The reason I was saying this is because this man would not have his name spelt wrong very often. We're very grateful to be joined by none other than Aussie designer Craig Somerton for his first ever episode of the Board Game Barbecue. How you going, Craig?
Good, thank you, Conor and Dana. How do you spell Dana wrong?
Yeah.
With two N's.
A lot of people spell it like that, or
with
a
H?
lot of people. No, they do. They spell it with two N's. Yeah. Some people don't understand that would be Dana. A lot of people don't understand that, but this is what happened. Okay, I'll tell you a story. I was going for a job interview. This was back in the 80s, long time ago, and this was when we did phone calls to check on whether you got the job or not. And I thought I did really, really well. And I think I just turned 18. And I want you to picture that in the 80s, girls were very innocent back in those days. We didn't know a lot about anything. We didn't understand.
Great, I need to mute Dana. My mouse is hovering over the mute button right now.
Anyway, so I ring up this it was a cafe called Cafe Da Vinci, and I thought I did really well. And I said, I just rang up to find out how I went in the interview. And she said, sorry, what was your name? And I said, Dana. She goes, Yana.
Yana?
And I go, no, Dana. She goes, Lana. And I said, no, Dana. And I could not think of a word starting with D. I could not think of one, and it just popped out. And I said D for dildo, and there was just this silence on the end of the phone, and I can even as I tell it, I can feel my face just going bright red.
You're going to good impression. Yeah.
She wouldn't forget you after that.
She also didn't get the job, so.
No, I didn't get the job.
Anyway, goodness me. That is not what this episode is about. Like I said, after our absolute rambling, we can't be trusted being on episodes together, Dana. It's you and me. So we do have Craig joining us, and not just to his thunder, but fresh off a successful Kickstarter campaign. So that's very exciting for yourself. So round of applause.
Thank you.
So how are you feeling after it, Craig? Like, what are your thoughts? You relieved? What's the go?
I'm very relieved that it actually funded. I'm just excited to actually have a game published.
Yep.
After so many years of trying to design games and not really getting not really getting anywhere, to actually have a game published, and I think we had 1,200 people
that's so
backed
good.
it in the end, which was just phenomenal. Yeah, for a tiny little game. Yeah, we were delighted when it funded within, I think it was like 20, 25 minutes or so.
Yeah,
so it did. We were very happy about that. Yeah,
I think by the time I got round to pledging, it had funded. I was like, oh, you beauty. Like that's always good as a consumer when you look at something, and regardless of the project, it's already funded. It means there's interest. It means you're not one of like 100 weirdos that's only into that. So, and I knew that would be the case because I honestly think that the game, which is now called Farmhand, would have been known at the time as Dino Tricks when you came to PlayCon. And everybody was walking around with those dinosaur stickers and they were talking about Dino Tricks. Yeah, Dana's just remembered that now.
That's right. Now I remember the dinosaur stickers at PlayCon. Yes.
Yeah. So tell us that process. Tell us a little bit about Farmhand and how it started as Dino Tricks. And then even go on and tell us sort of about your journey to getting to that point as well. That'd be awesome.
Well, I've been attempting to design games for probably 15 years or so, not a little longer. It all started, probably the game that started me off was Pandemic. As soon as I played that, I'd played Ticket to Ride and Carcassonne, all of the classic games that had got me into the field in the first place, into gaming. But the minute I played Pandemic, the genius of that mechanism of taking the cards and putting them back on top, I just went, oh, this is inspired. And then thought, oh, wouldn't it be fun to try and design your own game? And at the time, my mother was in hospital, and while I was in the hospital looking after her, I watched the doctors and nurses running around, and I thought, oh, there might be a game in here, a cooperative game. I actually sat down and made up a game called Emergency, which was a cooperative hospital game, and it played fairly well, but when you're an aspiring designer or a brand new designer, you just want to keep adding stuff. So I just kept adding stuff, and people are telling me, no, you have to stop because it's good at this stage. And I'd go, yeah, I know that, but wouldn't it be great if I could add this? Wouldn't it be great if I could add that? And the more you add in, the more complicated it becomes. The addition of one change just adds layers and layers and layers to it. So in the end, I just kind of shelved it. It wasn't going anywhere. I couldn't get past a couple of intractable points. And over the years, I've then moved on and tried to create a whole range of other games. None have actually really gone anywhere. I think I'm probably my own harshest critic. I don't want to waste people's time by getting them to test a game that I don't think is fun. So I tend to stop a long time before I actually test a lot of my games. And it just so happened that 2 years ago I was scanning through the net and I saw a little button shy contest come up for a dinosaur game for 18 cards. And I thought, oh, I wonder if I could design an 18-card dinosaur game. And at the time, I was completely and utterly obsessed with trick-taking games. Let's just say 2 years later, it still hasn't changed. I'm still utterly obsessed with trick-taking games.
Yep. I think you're not alone, judging by how many trick-taking games are getting played at the moment.
Oh, I know. But and there's just thousands of them coming out. And I'm constantly amazed at how the simplest of mechanisms, one of the oldest card mechanisms that there is, has so much nuance and so much variability, so much innovation. It's just incredible. But getting back to the story, sorry, I run off on tangents all the time.
No, not allowed to. Couldn't you tell from the start of the show that there's no tangents?
Yeah, that's right. There's no tangents. Ah,
I thought I'd try and make a little game, and out of that, trying to make a game with just 18 cards is quite difficult. I found out years ago one of the reasons why I wasn't being successful was the fact that I was trying to add too much in to a game. I had too many cards, I had too many components, the board had too many bits, had too many areas on it, and I realised that for me what I needed was really tight constraints. I needed to be severely restricted to be able to innovate or be able to work through things. So I started off with 18 cards, a couple of standard trick-taking things, must follow, try and do all these things. And it wasn't fun. And then I went back and thought, well, what trick-taking games do I love and what mechanisms are in there that I could potentially reuse that might work within 18 cards? And the first one that struck me was probably my favourite trick-taking game, which is Seas of Strife, or at that time was called Texas Showdown. And what I loved in particular about it was the fact that the deck is asymmetric. There isn't a single, there are 8 different suits and they range from 11 cards up to 4 cards. And that is just brilliant. It was just inspired. So I sat down a little bit of maths and I worked out that I could potentially do an asymmetric deck, which was 1 card, 2 cards, 3 cards, 3 cards, 4 and 5, which might work. And as I was playing with that, I thought, what would be really good is if I could show the cards on the back, show the suits on the back of the cards. That would be really nice. And then, of course, out of that spawned, if somebody knows this suit and there's only 1 card in it, they know what that card is. And in Dino Tricks, that was the 6. I didn't want it to be the highest card, but I also didn't want it to be the lowest. And then I started to deal with, what mechanisms can I have in there? I like the idea of must follow. So standard trick-taking game, if somebody's got the same suit, you have to follow because it's less chaotic. It keeps people, you can strategize that somebody's got a card. And particularly if all those cards are visible in everybody's hand, you can then form a strategy around that. So the game just started to form. And then I thought, I played out a couple of hands myself and I got a couple of really bad hands. And I thought, well, this is rubbish. If I'm playing 2 or 3 cards in a trick and I've got 1s and 2s, well, I'm going to be really quite bloody annoyed if I get 1s and 2s and somebody else is getting 5s and 6s. So how do you deal with the unfairness of hands? And the easiest way for that I could work out to deal with that was Skull King, where everybody bids for the tricks. So I went, fine, all right, well, we'll have bidding. And you can also bid 0, which means if I get a really rubbish hand, I can bid not to win anything. And with the asymmetry of the deck, and again, coming back to Skull King, because I had so few cards, it was going to have to be multi-round. So it was going to have to be 1 trick in 1 round, 2 tricks in 2 rounds, 3 tricks, and so on. And it all just really came together probably in the space of about a couple of days, maybe 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome.
And it just kind of worked. There was just this magic that I'm sure I stole the idea from the ether somewhere, that this idea was floating around and I just went, I'll have that.
Yeah.
So I played it and played it and played it and played it on my own for, possibly 200 times. And it just seemed to really work well. And I had some friends come and visit. I live in the country, so if people come and visit me, they have to stay overnight because we're so far away. So we sat around and started drinking and playing the game. And when we finish a game, they'd go, "Oh, that's great, let's go again." And I'd go, no, we'll go and play something else, because I felt really bad that they were just playing my little prototype. And they're going, no, we'll play that again, we'll play that again, we'll play that again. And quite honestly, we must have played for 4 hours.
That's
wow.
so good.
And at the end of that, they just went, "That is just awesome, mate. That is so good." So out of that, I ended up taking it down to BorderCon.
Yep.
Where I've been a number of years and played it with a couple of people. I was fairly promising. I felt really right. And every single person just went, "That is awesome."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in complete shock after so many years of, basically rubbish games. Everybody going, this is really good. I'm still doubting myself. No, it can't be that good. We're friends. You're telling me it's good because you don't want to be rude. And they're all going, no, it's good, it's good, it's good. So, it kind of grew from there. And at one stage I realised that I couldn't get it into the button shy contest because it needed a score pad. And button shy have a limit of only 18 cards and nothing else.
Right.
Yeah, you can't have tokens, you can't have score pads, you can't have anything else. So I went, fine, if I can't get it in, then I'll try and just play it some other way. And as I was playing it, we were playing with 2, 3 and 4 players, and it was going well. And at one stage there were 5 people there, and I thought I would really love it if it would play up to 5. So a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of maths, and I realised I could rejig the deck to make it 21 cards and make it play at 5 players, and it's even better. It just rounded the game out nicely.
Awesome.
It was just, And from there, it just kind of, I played it at every place I went to. People were asking me to play it more than I was pushing it at some of the cons I was going to. I sent a copy off to Cosmos, and they rejected it. They said it wasn't suitable for their stable. I also did the same for Korea Board Games, and they said it didn't fit them. I'd also spoken to Kim at Good Games, who was very interested in it, but I hadn't heard anything for quite a while. And then a friend of mine over in New Zealand got a copy, and he managed to play it with Shem Phillips. And the next thing I know, I'm sitting on Facebook and this message pops up, and a friend said, I've got somebody that'd like to have a chat with you. It was Shem Phillips.
Oh, wow.
And he's gone, it's fantastic, mate. And I'm just shell-shocked going, what? This is Shem Phillips, the Shem Phillips.
Yeah.
With all the Raiders of the North Sea and
Garfield
all that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For him to say it's good was just remarkable. And then David Harding actually heard on somebody posted somewhere to say that it was good. So he asked me for a copy, and he said, I'll get back to you. And I'm not kidding, 3 days later I got an email from him going, please don't sign it anywhere else. I want to publish it.
That's so good.
So we were having a bit of a chat, and a couple of days before PlayCon last year, I decided, I was going to go with David, a little indie Australian company. Always want to support Aussies if possible.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it just went from there. He said he could publish it this year, whereas everybody else was looking at 26, 27 potentially.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd just be nice to get it out as early as possible.
Yeah.
And then took it to PlayCon, was in the Designer Alley, which was so much fun. I met so many fantastic people there as well with their games. Got to sit down with Amy and Maggie from Thinkathema and play with them. They really enjoyed it as well, which was fantastic. And then, it's just been basically waiting until the Kickstarter kicked off this year, and very excited, very, very excited to finally see the real copy go out around the world, and just the prospect of, I have no illusion. I have no illusion I'm going to make any money out of this. For me, my greatest love is the thought of hundreds, if not thousands of people around the world playing it. It's one of the greatest delights I have. I've been to different cons and gaming sessions, and you suddenly hear this laugh of people at a nearby table, and you get up and wander over, and you see that they're playing your game. And you just get this little, what do you call it? Like a little wobble in the stomach where you go, that's mine. I made that.
Yeah.
And they all turn around and go, is this yours? It's fantastic. It's just, there is nothing to equal that. Nothing on earth to equal that. It's just wonderful. And I'm just delighted, absolutely delighted at the prospect of it being played by more people.
How did it end up going from Dino Tricks to Farmhand?
We found out at one stage that there was another trick-taking game coming out from the Portland Game Collective. They'd picked up a little game and they'd called it Dino Tricks, Trix.
Right.
And it just happened that we found out through Ian O'Toole, who also got to play with at PlayCon, and he loved it. Yeah, and it was just too close, so David and his partners decided that it was just going to be probably a little too confusing. So I tried to keep the dinos. I really love the dinos.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah. But, it ended up becoming Farmhand. The artwork's really nice. It's cool. It's the minute you start playing, it's completely themeless. It's like most trick-taking games.
That's right, yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what the theme is. It could be anything.
That's why it's like Texas Showdown and Seas of Strife. It like doesn't really matter. Like it's the same game. It's just one theme.
Yeah.
And,
well, I know Texas Showdown didn't do very well because people thought it was poker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So that actually brings up a good point. So you talk about similarities between games. You've obviously done a lot of work to make sure that it sticks out. Was that a conscious effort that you made to make sure, no, I want this to be different, or was it more based around, I want this game to be fun and this is the type of game that I want to make for Dino Tricks?
For me, it's fun.
Yep.
For me, it's short, it's fun, and it's interactive. That was precisely what I wanted out of the game, because that's the type of games that I love to play. If I've got a trick-taking game where you can all screw with each other, then that's ideal. That's perfect. And if it plays in 20 to 30 minutes, that's even better. I don't design for mechanics. I don't design for any of those things. I design for fun, and I make things that I want to play.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's why I really admire Matt Dunstan and Martin Wallace and Phil Walker Harding and that, who take on these companies that say, we want you to design a game for us. I just couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't design a game that I don't want to play.
Yeah.
It would kill me.
Definitely would. It's interesting you talked about living out in the country too, because Armidale, for those of you, so if for our international listeners, what would you say your closest capital city is for Armidale, and how far?
We are actually almost halfway between Sydney and Brisbane, but we are 2 hours inland from the coast, and we're exactly 6 hours from Sydney and 6 hours from Brisbane.
There you go.
So 6 hour drive, which is a bit far to go down to most things, which is a little annoying, but I love it here. It's wonderful. We're sitting up on top of the mountains, so it doesn't get as hot as it does in Sydney or Brisbane.
Yep.
And we've got the 4 seasons. So we have the proper winter. We don't get snow. I think we've had snow 3 times since we've been here. And it doesn't stick on the ground.
No, we don't get snow either. We're too close.
So it's basically the outback. That's what you're saying.
No, it's up on top. It's an alpine region, not that far out.
No. Craig, I live in a coastal town that's like 3 hours, it's like 2 hours from a major city. And Dana says I live in the outback. We don't live in a major metropolitan area.
I grew up in the middle of the city. I grew up in Balmain.
Yeah, right.
Which is in a city, Sydney, for most of my life, and then lived most of my adult life around Ryde, so in the northwestern suburbs. But, yeah, moving to the country is wonderful.
In your youth, were you playing games like D&D maybe or something like that?
I did when I became an adult. Well, I used to play euchre with my grandfather when he was young, and then when I started work, I had some workmates when I was an apprentice electrician. We used to play euchre lunchtime quite frequently. And then later on when I joined the police, on night shift, we used to sit around and play cards when it got a little quiet.
I completely understand that, being a former police officer myself.
What are these jobs where you have dentists? I don't know. What are these jobs?
In winter, on night shift, it's very quiet. The crooks
is.
don't like to go out at night when it's cold.
4 o'clock in the morning and it's freezing cold outside and there's not a single crook on the road and there's no traffic going anywhere and you go, let's go back. Boys, if something goes off, we'll just drive out.
Yeah.
Sit down and play cards.
Yeah.
And well, after that, I started, some friends and I started playing D&D. Well,
Yep.
we didn't actually start with D&D. We started with an original precursor to D&D called Empire of the Petal Throne, which was around the same time as D&D. But, yeah, it was a role-playing game.
Yep.
And then we went on to D&D and then we played Middle-earth role-playing. And then life kind of intervenes at that point in time in the early 90s where we all start getting married and having kids and abandon the games. Well, they go by the wayside while you're working and having kids. And then probably back in about 2005, I started to be reinterested in games again.
Mm-hmm.
So, discovered Carcassonne, Ticket to Ride.
Carcassonne. My brother has gone on absolute Carcassonne binge. So that the basic, he almost can work out the layout of what it's going to be. Like, I know there's so many tiles, but he's like, oh well, and he knows the tiles that are left. Like he's like, there's that one. There's that one and there's that one. I'm like, no, I'm not playing this game with you anymore. I was like, there's no way that you can he's like, yeah, there's one specific one that you need. And I was like, no, don't tell me that because you will draw it and then I won't get to play it. So, but I love Carcassonne's so good. Hey, are you going to make a tile laying game? Please tell me you are.
I am thinking about it. It's funny you talk about that. I've been obsessing lately over games for small children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, have you got grandchildren? Is that why?
I do. I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, Charlotte, who I am slowly turning into a gamer.
Yes.
Oh, another recruit.
Much to her mother's annoyance. But yes, she absolutely loves it. We go over to their place or she comes here and we devote an entire day to just sitting down and playing games with her. And she loves it. So a lot of my obsession at the moment is trying to work out games that 6-year-olds can play, which is really quite a challenge in itself because they don't have the strategy, they don't have the tactical load, they have little hands, so they can't really hold a lot of things. So I have managed to come up with a trick-taking game.
Nice.
I tried to get her to play. Well, she wanted to play Grandpa's farm game, but she just couldn't understand the strategy. It's just bidding is beyond her and, must follow those things. So I actually managed to make her a trick-taking game that a 6-year-old can play, and at the moment it's Bluey themed.
Oh,
I love it. Bluey.
Bluey. Hopefully I will have a copy of it when I come down to the game day in Sydney next weekend.
Oh, there you go. You can.
Are you able to talk about it at all, or it's a secret?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no. It's a couple of the things I realised when I was playing with her is things like, as I said, they've got small hands. Kids have got small hands, so you can't hold more than a couple of cards in your hand. So I kind of sat there and went, well, let's say the maximum hand size is 3. She can deal with 3 cards. The next part was must follow is difficult for her. So it's just don't have to follow. You can play any card you like. So out of that, then you've only got 3 cards. You draw up a new card at the start of the round. You play a card down, and like farmhand, the highest card wins the trick. And I've reused the mechanism of cancelling tricks.
Yep.
So if 2 people play the same number, they cancel each other out. And we sat around as a family with her mother and stepfather and me and the wife and Charlotte, and we played for about an hour and a half. And the adults were having more fun than the kids.
It's lovely.
It was just there. It just came out of nowhere again. It just suddenly seemed to work. You don't have to follow, so she can play anything she likes. And she was starting to develop strategy. With only 3 cards, you're limited in what you can play, but you can still form some strategy there. And then we flipped the rules on their head a couple of times and said lowest card wins instead of highest card.
Nice.
Yeah, which was actually more fun, where we flipped that halfway through the game.
Yeah.
And said lowest card wins, and their brains were melting at once for a few seconds trying to work out which one to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really fun, and it seems to really work well for 6-year-olds.
That's so good. It sounds like that having a set of boundaries is a really good way for you to design a game. And so it's like how you said, well, your granddaughter, she can't hold many cards. Having to follow suit is too difficult. So having that obviously made it a lot easier for you and was a good framework for you to design something else.
Well, the aim of this one was originally it actually has a whole series of extra cards in there as well. So this is kind of like my first trick-taking game. So you can teach these fundamentals of this is a hand of cards, this is the trick play where everybody plays their card in turn, and this is what wins and this is what doesn't win. And then you can add additional rules in as they get better, as they get to understand. You can add a few more rules in, you can add a few more cards in, and you can start progressing their knowledge of trick-taking games and stepping them up to be able to play slightly more complicated games and have the fundamentals there. So that's kind of what I was aiming towards at the start.
Actually, a lot of parents are very interested in trying to get their children into games early. And, we've got My First Everdell, I think it's Little Scythe, even Ticket to Ride has a My First Journey.
Yep, I've got one on the bookshelf back there.
Yeah, so I really love that. Many people say that trick-taking is very difficult for them to grasp, later in life. You often see that the people who grew up playing 500 or those types of games have a grasp on it, and it seems to be quite difficult to get for people who haven't played it. So if you can play little games like that and teach the basics of trick-taking early, that's really great. I love that idea.
Yeah. It just seems to work out really well that way. And thinking about it, you could add more on. In fact, in the rules at the moment, I've got the next stage you could add in must follow. Mm-hmm. The next stage you can think of trying to add some additional rules in that will just complicate it a little bit and form some more strategy in their head once they get to that point that they can comprehend how that works. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, it's probably why Farmhand seems to work so well with so many people, because I've played it with hardcore gamers like yourself, Connor, and as well as
I'm a hardcore gamer.
I mean hardcore trick-taking gamers, hardcore trick-takers. Because I think we sat around and played Caesar Strife, didn't we? And we were just bagging the crap out of each other the whole time at PlayCon. But I've also played it with people who have never, ever played trick-taking before, and within a round or two, they're suddenly grasping the strategy, and it works, yes. But, yeah, a lot of the complicated ones nowadays are just doing people's heads in.
We've
do my head in.
Yeah. I've talked about this numerous times because a bit like the hobby itself, I've gone through a trick-taking renaissance as well, just playing all the trick takes I can. And similar to yourself, I probably didn't grow up playing euchre, but I definitely played a lot of 500 when I got to uni, OHL as well, all that type of stuff. And then when I started work and stuff like that, so a bit like you with your police force buddies as well. So it is interesting, and the fact that you've gone from you started designing an 18-game trick taker, then to a 21, and now you're looking at even refining that even more for the junior one. I think that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's I love picking the brains of people who design games. So that's really cool. Speaking of that, you obviously you put the game out there, and you've talked about going to publishers and putting the game out. How do you deal with the feedback and sometimes the negative feedback that you've had in games?
How do I deal with rejection? Not very well. I'm getting much better. The first time I had somebody tear one of my games apart, I got very defensive, and it was very tough to take because you invest a lot of money. Well, not so much, not money. You invest time in this.
Yeah.
And you sit there and you play through things in your head and you think, this is going to be good, that's going to be good. And when you put it in front of somebody else and they do things that you don't foresee, and then they turn around and rubbish it.
Yep. Yeah.
And you've invested a lot in this, and it's very hard to deal with. I'm getting much, much, much better. I had a friend that I used to game with at Chatswood, Alison, who has just been an absolute stalwart friend through so many years. And she said to me one day, not everybody is going to like your game.
Yep, for sure.
You can't design a game that everybody's going to like. Some people are going to like heavy games. Some people are going to like no interaction. Some people are going to like completely different things. Some people are just going to hate it, no matter how good it is. It could be the greatest game that exists. Some people are just not going to like it, learn to deal with it. So I don't get defensive anymore because it's the way it is. You have to be able to take some blows and you have to be able to listen. But you also don't need to listen to everybody.
Yeah,
because I've also had people say, oh, wouldn't it be great if you did this, or wouldn't it be great if you did that? And I've wasted months going down the road of listening to somebody else's advice that was taking it into a tangent that they wanted the game to go down, that wasn't what I wanted to design.
Yeah.
And, just wasted a lot of time. So, it's essential to get feedback. You can't play a game yourself. And like I said before, until you put it in front of a group of people and see how they're going to react to it, you can just never know. And sometimes it works, sometimes you strike it lucky, and sometimes it just doesn't. And you've got to go back to the drawing board and start again. But it is part and parcel of being a designer. I still struggle to call myself a designer because I'm not even in the same league as Phil and Matt Dunstan, who've just turned out so many.
You got a published game,
start somewhere.
Yeah, you got a published
they
game.
started somewhere. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yep.
You know that game you've been wanting for a long, long time? The one that's been on your wish list for ages? Yeah, that one. The one you've been adding to your cart and taking off again, umming and ahhing about whether you should get it or not? Well, I'm here to push you over the edge and say go to adventgames.com and add that to your cart right now. I bet you that Dean has a great price on it. He's got great customer service, flat rate shipping, and there's so many other goodies to explore on the website. Wonderful categories all organised to pick the exact game that's right for you and the group that you play with. So head over now, don't hesitate, to adventgames.com.au and add that game to your cart now.
All right. So what we've got, Craig, now are some questions from some of our patrons. So if you're interested in being able to ask our guests some questions on Discord, you can sign up to become a patron, which we'll let you know how to do that towards the end of the show. But the first question is from Belle Deschain, who goes by another name, and you're probably a bit more familiar with her potentially. And she wants to know, does Craig have a favourite Aussie game designer? Well, you mentioned at least 2 or 3 of them, so they put you on the spot.
Absolutely. Phil Walker-Harding.
There you go.
His games just fall right within that sweet spot for me. He's just got this unique ability to condense down his games to simple turns, simple actions, but really meaningful actions. I just love it. I've got a whole shelf behind me of Phil's games.
The Phil Walker-Harding Shrine?
Yeah, the Phil Walker-Harding Shrine. Yes, including some very obscure ones before he was actually, that he self-published.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Go, list one off. Prove that you're a real fan.
Oh, well, I've got the original old, where are we? Oh, Dungeon, I can't read it from here. Dungeon something. Or there was one that was actually like Flickershay.
Never actually heard of it before.
I think I have heard of it. Yes,
flicking. It's a bit like lawn bowls, that you're flicking discs instead of lawn bowls.
And it's about getting like the closest, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. We played it years ago.
Yeah. What was the other one? It wasn't made by Phil, but the one that was like the Wild West shootout. Did you ever play that one?
Oh, that's
What's that called?
Is that Flick of the
Oh,
West
yeah,
or something?
I've never played that one. No, I missed out on that one.
It's a game. It's a
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
All right. So Lee Perrot, or Lee Poirot, as I like to call him. If you were one of the animals in Farmhand, which animal would you be? And once you've chosen that one, there's a follow-up question.
Well, I could be very rude and say that I'd be the big cock, but I was waiting for Dana's reaction. No, I'd be the pig because I am the pig.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Lee's follow-up question is then, what animal would you pick for the hosts, for each of the hosts?
I think Dana might be the dog. And, no, Connor's got a dog, so I think Conor might also be the dog. They might be out barking at each other. I think you might be the duck, Conor.
I'm the duck.
You're the duck.
I eat like a duck. I don't chew my food for a while. So that tracks.
Here's your quackers.
Yeah. Maybe I want to be your first answer, actually.
Rooster.
Rooster. Draven, who is Draven, as we know, is the bastion of all podcast or the barbecue knowledge.
Oh, yes.
We sort of touched upon this, but Craig has played a lot of trick-taking games, and he's put in brackets a lot. What keeps you coming back for more?
It's the fact that I said before, it's the simplest and the oldest of mechanisms, but there is just so much nuance in it. You can glean or give away so much information with the flip of a single card, particularly if you're in a partnership game and you want to convey something to your partner. One particular card can just give them so much information. And it's the fact that it is the simplest of mechanisms, but there is so much complexity that sits behind it. It's what I love. I love that elegant simplicity, if you want to call it that.
I totally understand that, because there are some games and some people who think you have to understand the hidden knowledge of trick takers, which is fair. But then you've also got such a variety of games where you might want to lose a trick. So it's like, I guess I'm just going to play that card, and it works out for you because, as long as you're not breaking suit or things like that, then it's fine. Yeah.
But it's why to me the crew was such an inspired design, because it actually teaches so much of that nuance, so much of that strategy, when you want to lose, when you want to offsuit, when you want to win, how to trump. It's just beautiful design.
Actually, I agree. I would recommend anyone who has not played trick taking to play the crew, to learn how to do it, because that's actually how my kids learnt how to do it. We played, and I've mentioned on the podcast before, we played all 50 missions over about 18 months, and it was like we were about ready to strangle each other by the end of it, because it took a long time. It took a long time, but they are really good at trick taking now, and they love it. They love it as well, but it's a great way to learn it.
Yes, it is, absolutely.
So the other one too is the Lord of the Rings trick-taking game that's come out recently. It's very similar. They have, it sort of steps it out and stuff like that. So yeah, that's another good one too.
I have a copy on my shelf. I haven't been able to play it just yet.
Yeah, I haven't either, but everyone who has played it has just raved about it. So Tom H has said, having you on the show is amazing, by the way. So that's amazing.
Right.
As someone who's been working at designing a game myself, I'd be very interested to know what his experience was like working with publishers and or developers. Specifically, what level of involvement did they have in helping shape the game from the prototype to finished project? And how did he find that experience? So we did sort of talk about that before, but if there's anything else you wanted to add, that would be cool.
I was, for one, I think I was very, very lucky with David. He was very easy to work with. And one of the reasons why I chose David as well is because I spoke to Matt Dunstan and I said, would you work with David? Because I know he's worked with him before. And he said, absolutely, without a moment's hesitation. And I went, well, fine. If somebody like Matt, with all his experience with publishers, says without hesitation, I'm in there. Again, I haven't had an opportunity to work with too many publishers. I've only had the chance to work with David. And the bastard changed the theme of my game. I wanted my dinosaurs.
I did too, Craig. I did too.
So he's blacklisted for me.
Yeah.
No, he was just really easy to work with. I think he also turned around and said to me that he was lucky that they didn't have to do a lot of development work on the game. Awesome. That I pretty much tested the thing to hell. If you've got to work with the publisher and they have to do a lot of development work, then you're going to have to do some work with them as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting, though, talking to David, that he's signed a couple of games where the designers have just basically signed and they don't have a lot to do with it anymore, which I thought was quite funny because I'm pretty sure I've annoyed the hell out of David with multiple lengthy emails and, suggestions here and suggestions there and running off, publicising things. So, yeah, I'm sure I annoyed him a bit too.
So once he signs or you sign the game with, it's Grail Games, isn't it? Grail Games.
Yep.
Are you allowed to have any say or you just suggest? It's just suggestions that you can make?
The publisher generally has the final say. Because they're the ones stumping the money and doing all the work and arranging everything. Yeah. But most good publishers will allow you to have some input into the shape of the game. And since you're the designer, if they hit intractable problems, they will often want you to try and work through them before they bring their development team in as well. So, and I was pretty fortunate with David as well. He's got some good development partners over in France with Matago and Colossal Games in the US. They all seem pretty positive about it, and it's been a very positive arrangement so far, and I'll just be happy to see it out in the streets.
Just one other question. I've always been curious. So when you pitch a game, like you said, you sent your first game to Cosmos. I think you said to Cosmos first.
Yep.
Do you literally send it like in a package and say, "Can you play my game?" Or do you have a meeting with them? Or?
No, anybody who's sitting at home, do not do that.
Okay, right, got it.
That's naughty. They're just going to trash it.
Yeah.
Send an email asking nicely, but before you even do that, find out whether the company is actually looking for games actively at the moment, because most of these companies are just overwhelmed with the number of game designers. Do the research and find out what type of games they're looking for. Don't send them a war game if they're looking at children's games. Yeah. So you've got to find the right publisher for you. You've got to be nice and respectful. Send them an email first. If they're interested, you probably want to do a short video, say maybe 2-minute video. Definitely probably a little sell sheet, so a 1-page sheet of how the game works, a short screed on an email. If they're interested, they will get back in touch with you. But, yeah, don't just blindly send off a whole game because, for one, they're expensive to produce and they're not going to play it.
Can I ask one other question? I know Conor's looking at me going, I need to get on to the next question. Anyway, I'm just curious. So how do you get the game printed? How do you get it printed, like your prototype?
I print my prototypes. I normally print most of my prototypes on paper and I put them in card sleeves and I test them until I think they're ready to produce proper games. And then I will either use Launch Lab or Launch Tabletop or make playing cards, which is or Printer Studio over in China. You just upload your game art to each of the cards. They print them, package them up, and send them back to you.
Oh, wow.
And it costs probably, if I was running off a set of cards, and I'm pretty confident that it's in a good state, I'll probably get 2 versions so I can send some around to people to test. maybe 2 or maybe 3, and it would probably cost me about $50 to do 2 or 3 copies of a game sent from Launch Tabletop. There is a company in Brisbane as well, ePrint Online. I've used them once or twice. I just think Launch Tabletop are probably a little better.
I've recently spoken to another designer that was at the Brisbane Game Day, and he said it was he's just self-published his game, and he said it was incredibly difficult. It was near impossible to get it printed in Australia for what he...
It is very hard, and it's very costly. It's much, much cheaper in China. Unfortunately, that's the nature of it.
You done, Dana?
Okay, sorry. Just intrigued.
I'm kidding. No, it's, our last question isn't actually a full question. It was from Manny, and he asked about the theme change of the game from Dynatrix to Farmhand, which you've already been through. But I just wanted to let you know, Manny, I didn't forget about your question. It's just Craig answered it earlier, so he's given us his time, and we don't want to waste his time anymore. So, Hey, Craig, it has been an absolute blast talking to you. Do you want to hang around and chat about a few other games, if that's okay?
No, I'm going away. No, yeah, of course I will.
Dana, what have you been playing just recently? Or maybe not just that recently. What have you been playing? What's been fun?
I haven't been playing a great deal recently, purely because of Cyclone Alfred and just helping out my mum. But I have played a couple of trick-taking games, which I thought I would talk about because I thought, Craig, you might be interested.
There's a pattern for me here.
There is. But, Craig, this is a tangent. I'm going off on a tangent. I'm just letting you know that I was looking up information on you, trying to get some information on you on Google.
Stalker. Careful,
and I
thought,
oh, look, he's published a book and it's on Amazon. And I thought, oh my God, I thought he's really smart. I better read it. And it's called The Outline of Thermodynamics. And then I realized, that's why you do Craig E. Somerton. That was Craig W. Somerton.
Yeah.
Is that why you use the E? Because he comes up a lot, this guy.
He's actually deceased now.
Yeah.
He was a professor over in the US and published a number of books.
Yeah, you've had this before. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to regular programming. Connor is like going, can we please just stick to the topic?
That ship has sailed. I'm just dealing with what I got at the moment. Let's be honest.
Okay. Anyway, so I have played a couple of trick-taking games. All Play at the moment are doing a little. They're tiny box series. So not those square boxes. They're doing little tiny ones. And there's 2 that I have at home. One is called Prey.
Oh yes.
And the other one is called Rainbow.
Yep.
Rainbow. So have you had a chance to play any of those, either of you?
Either of those, no.
Someone, I can't remember, someone was talking about Prey. And
Prey's the double-ended cards, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So that's the one I was going to talk about first. So it's a trick-taking game. It's a little bit limited because you need 3 to 4 players to play it. It doesn't play any less than that. And there's 4 suits, and they're numbered 1 to 12. One side of your card is predators, and the other side is prey. And so a card might be a number 12 predator, and then when you turn the card up the other way, it might be a number 6 prey.
Yep.
And so you're dealt 12 cards, and you're going to play the first six hands as a predator, and then you're going to turn your cards over and play the next 6 hands as prey. Each person also has 2 dice. And so this is where the, bidding, or it's not really bidding, comes in. But you're going to roll your 2 dice. You can't have the same number on each die. And then you're going to put that in front of you. So let's say you get a 6 and a 2. You have to try and either win 6 tricks or 2 tricks. Another thing as well, that if you do get a 6, it can either be considered a 6 or a 0. You can pick either way. So, for example, if you rolled a 3 and a 4, you would either have to win 3 tricks or 4 tricks in the round of 12, playing predators and prey. And then what you do, if you've happened to have gotten your 3 tricks that you were trying to win, you turn your player card over and it's got a 1 on it, and you re-roll your dice at the end of the round and play another round of 12 hands again. And so if you can twice get the number of tricks on one of your die, then you win the game. My daughter, actually, we played this evening before we started the podcast, and my daughter and I tied, and she had a really interesting reaction because it's actually ties are friendly in this game. And she said, and she slammed her cards down and she said, "Where's the creativity?" I said, "Come up with something." It was so funny. It was so funny. But anyway, it's actually a really interesting game when you've got to work out. When you're playing your initial 6 hands, you're always keeping an eye on what cards are coming up in your next lot. And do I save my predator, which is a 6 at the moment, but it's going to be a 12 later? Do I save that card to try and win tricks later?
Yep.
It still has the same rules as any other trick-taking game: follow suit and high card wins. My family really enjoyed it. I like the fact, that you had a choice. So if you rolled a 2 and a 5, you could pick one or the other, and your strategy might change during the game. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice little game. It only goes. It says 20 minutes, but we probably played it in 15 minutes. Yeah. So most of these all-play tiny box games are very quick playing. So that was Prey.
That sounds really interesting. Yeah.
The other one is called Rainbow.
It's got
unicorns on it. And my daughter said, "Oh, look, it's a gay awakening game." That's actually what my daughter said. So this game is a trick-taking shedding game, and it plays 2 to 6. So I must admit, I tend to be more attracted to games that play more players. Card games that play more players. It's very I find that with Prey, the game that I spoke about before, it's very limiting when you can only play 3 to 4 players. It's so anything that can play has a wide range in it is good to me. So you've got cards numbered 1 to 6, and there are 10 of each, and you're dealt a hand of cards. And there are 3 point cards in the middle. So, and they're not special cards. They're just other cards that are dealt into the middle. And those 3 cards, so let's say it might be a 6, a 3, and a 2, they will be your point cards at the end of the round. So, or at the end of the hand, I should say. They'll be your point cards.
The cards you win?
No. So you'll be dealt, you get dealt a hand of cards. And then what's left over, there'll be 3 cards of the deck face up in front of you on the table. And let's just say it just happens to be a 6, a 3, and a 2. So at the end of the hand, you will win those cards. So whoever plays the highest combo in that hand takes the highest point card. That person would take the 6, the next person would take the 3, and the person who came last would take the 2. And they just turn that face down next to them, and then you'll play the next hand. And at the end of the game, when at least 2 people have shedded all their cards, then the game ends, and you're going to count the cards in your point deck. When you play, there are 3 things that you can play. You can play a single card, you can play a set, so like 2 6s, 3 4s, or you can play a run, 1 2 3 4 5 6, something like that. So an example is, if you play a single card, anybody can play anything. You can play a single card or anything. If you play a set, you can play a set or a single card. And if you play a run, you can play a run or a single card. And you might want to play a single card because you might just want to be throwing that round and just taking a low point card because you've got other cards that you want to keep together for future rounds. But the interesting thing about this is what I was getting to is that the cards that are played in that round then become the point cards for the next round.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
So let's just say if you played 2 6s and someone played two 2s and then someone played a 3, well, the point cards are paired up. So the 2 6s will be there, the 2 3s will be there, and then there'll be the 2. I think I said someone played a 2 or a 3. If there were multiple pairs, you would just go from highest to lowest. You're going to find that with some rounds, you're going to have 12 points to win. You're going to have maybe 6 points to win, and then someone's going to be stuck with 2 points. And it's going to be a really important round. But the person who played those 6s in the first place is going to be thinking, I'm going to play this because I want to win, but I've also got to be able to win it back in the next round. Somehow I've got to win back those 6s in the next round. And so keep going like that each set of cards that are played in the round go into that point display. And it's very, very good. I probably, out of the 2 games, I probably found that Rainbow was very, very good. Just that decision space of trying to decide when to play a really good hand, because sometimes the point cards, there's only a couple of points in between them, and then sometimes you can get a huge disparity in the point cards, and you think, oh my God, what have I done? I've just played my points. I can't win.
And you don't want to hand them over to somebody else who's going to win them in the next hand. Yeah,
well, that's right. So I thought it was a really clever gimmick, and I really enjoyed it. So
I like that. I like that whole idea of winning, but is winning worth the cards that you're going to play? That also reminds me of another game too. Actually, now that I think about it,
what game is that?
No, I don't know, but it's there somewhere in my mind vault. I'm being super helpful, aren't I?
You're a font of knowledge.
Oh my God, this is a hoot, this podcast. Oh my God.
It's a very dry font. It's the font in the drought, I think. Yeah. I played a card shedder as well, called, that Dan actually talked about when he was on the podcast, called Nani Tori Dori. So this is a card shedder where you're attempting to get rid of cards, and unlike Rainbow, you're only getting rid of sets. But when you, and Dan explained it far better than I did on the episode he was on, I'm pretty sure he sizzled it. What you do is that when you play the card and you beat the card or cards, you can then take the cards that you have beaten to place them into your hand, because similar to Scout, once you have your cards dealt to you and you pick them up, there's no moving them around. So you can play cards from your hand to try and make those sets, but you can't change them around like I've known other people to do in Scout and say, this game is really easy. So again, it's that whole thing of, do I want to beat these cards in order to take it and make something really powerful? Because similarly to what you were saying with Rainbow, is that if a 5 will beat a 4, and then 2 5s will beat 2 4s, but 2 5s will also beat 1 6, and then so on and so forth. And I think there's 9 of each card, up to 9. Up to 6, I think. I think 6 the highest. And what you do, that the aim is to not lose 2 games in a row. So you play until you're out, till you've played all your cards, and then you play until there's one person left. And this, again, Dan talked about it on one of his episodes that he was on. It's so good. Have either of you guys played this yet?
I have. I played it at CanCon.
Yep.
And it was fun. It was good.
It is fun. Yeah. It's probably one of those games where, if you're new to card shedding or games like that, that's a good one to have. Yep. I have heard, and Craig, you might have done this, I have heard that the 2-player version is actually quite different. Have you played it at 2 players?
No, I haven't played it at 2. No.
Yeah. It's like the cards are your lives and stuff like that, so you can play the card.
I think you can actually play it on BGA.
Yes, you can. Yep. So that's where I think lots of people have played it. I think Dan said at one point, 5 games going on. Narnia Toy Joy, really fun. Lovely artwork, by the way, of birds. So if you like bird artwork. Dana, if you can find a copy of this, it might be hard because it is Japanese, or play it on BGA, I think you'd really enjoy it.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds like my bag.
Yeah. And the other game that I wanted to talk about just quickly is I've kind of made it my thing at the Melbourne Game Day. So we had the Melbourne Game Day, not the weekend just gone that we're recording, but the weekend before, where I like to play a classic. So I would like to get my punch card punch, Dana. The punch card. So
that's what we need at PlayCon. We need a classic, copy card to get it
that's
clicked.
right. When you get one game with Conor free. No one wants that.
I reckon that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that.
All right, it's your thing to do, Dana. You can jump on there and do it.
Yeah.
But mine was Five Tribes. So I'd never played Five Tribes before.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, sorry about that. But again, so now it's on my punch card. So I've done it. This is really cool. It looks like it's going to be a lot, but it's really, really straightforward. But it can have a lot of analysis paralysis. Because what you're doing is on your turn, you're picking up, Craig's nodding, you're picking up the meeples and you're dropping them in. It doesn't have to be a straight line, but it has to the spaces or the squares or the tiles that you place them on have to be adjacent to each other. And you place meeples on as many tiles as there are meeples, and the final one that you place it on, you pick up the meeples and then take a specific action. And how powerful that action is dependent on how many meeples of that colour were on that tile. So there's 5 colours. So there's green, blue, red, white, and yellow. Yellow is just pure endgame scoring. White is to use and buy the gin, which can give you special powers. Red is to assassinate other people's meeples, which can be really nasty. These can be the white ones or the yellow ones in front of you. Blue is to just score the blue tiles that you took the meeples from. And then green is to get goods from the market. Now, I have not played this enough to be able to analyze or talk about in any serious depth. It was my first time playing it, but I'm very keen to play this again because that whole process of picking up and putting down the meeples and trying to find the best route was really fun without making it too powerful for your opponents. What do you guys think?
That's known as the Mancala mechanism.
Yeah.
It's the old African game of picking up beads and putting them into bowls. I've played it probably 5 or 6 times.
Yep.
And when you talk about analysis paralysis, it's probably the worst game for AP for me because of the spatial nature that you can pick up from anywhere, a pile from anywhere, and go in any direction. I kind of freeze up. My brain goes, I could go there, I could go there, I could go, oh, no, but if I go there, that's going to be better. Oh, no. And I end up just spiraling, and everybody else gets frustrated.
No, and what happens is if you clear a tile, you effectively get to do a particular action. And so I was trying to do that so often. So with the do you get to take the action or do you own that tile? I can't remember. Which is it?
Oh,
I think it's both.
Yeah, but
I think you get to put your camel on it. You get to put your camel on it.
The tiles.
Yeah,
that's right. And I was trying to do that so often, and I just couldn't work out like what was going to be optimal. And I think I was waiting for like a really big, like juicy one to build up, but because we play with 4, it never happened. So yeah, the camels were cool. And I ended up collecting lots of goods and having the end of game goods scoring with the set collecting. That was fun. But yeah, like I said, I would love to play this again.
The gins are really good in that. They're really powerful in some of those little actions that you get out of them too.
I really enjoy that game too. But we always say, like in the group of ladies that I play in, we always say, okay, let's give each other time. Let's be patient. We'll gnaw on the cheese platter and we'll just be patient because it does affect me with analysis paralysis. I get a little bit slow, I must admit.
Particularly with that board state changing every time. As soon as somebody moves, the plan that you'd made is now out the window, so you've got to reevaluate.
And I'm normally someone who I don't belabor my turns too often. So I like to, I generally would say I'll start thinking about it once my current turn ends. And then by the time it's come around to me, I pretty much know what I'm going to do aside, unless I've drawn a card and something else happens. But that one, I had to wait until the person in front of me, because there was no point. It just changed far too often. And playing with four, I liked it. I liked the fact that it changed lots, but it did make it quite stressful on the old grey matter. So yeah, that was Five Tribes.
Very
Lovely.
Good.
Craig, I might hand it back to you, because you wanted to talk about a game you mentioned before, and that is a game that we played together, Caesar Strife.
Yes, my favourite. Far more than even my own game. It's just such a beautiful game. It's, as I said before, it's that beautiful asymmetric suit where you've got 11 low cards, 10, 9, 8, 7, all the way up to 4. And each of the cards are uniquely numbered, so they go from 0 right up to 74. Then you've got the must-follow rule, but the must-follow is if you can't follow suit and you play a suit, then the people following you can play against either of those suits, which is just a beautiful mechanism, which then creates some really interesting little dynamics, because the way the tricks are resolved, it's the majority of the cards of a particular suit that win. So if there are more of a blue suit than there are of a red, then the highest blue card will win. And sometimes you sit there and think, I'm fine, I'm going to throw off and I'm going to be safe. And then before you know it, other people have followed your suit, you've now got the highest and you're winning. And again, it's a trick avoidance game, so you don't want to be taking those tricks. And the times that you can screw each other is just hilarious. The laughing that we had at PlayCon last year was just brilliant. I loved it. Loved it.
Have you played with the rule about zeroing out the cards? Have you played with that rule?
Yes. Yeah, that was apparently part of the original design of the original game called Strife, and it was neglected when it was turned into Texas Showdown, and they put it back in again for Caesar Strife. And I've played it. I like it both ways. I think I actually prefer that rule as well when it's back in, where if you play the highest card of a particular suit, that it cancels that entire suit. Because that was always a danger. Whenever you got a hand and you'd sit there and go, I've got the top card of a suit, how am I going to avoid getting this trick? With this, you can quite honestly just get away with not winning it.
Yep.
So, it's really clever.
It totally changes the game and makes it a game that was nasty already, super nasty.
Yes. Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, like you said, you're thinking, I'm going to throw off suit. I don't have this card. I'm going to throw off suit. Yep. And then everyone's like, well, let's make you win this one, hey, because everyone's – and I've seen someone lose or win a trick with the 2 card. So the 2 is the third lowest card. Was that you?
I think that was me. Yep.
I was like, oh my God, how? And so what you're then doing is cards that would normally be really safe that are low in the you end up sweating on them and going,
I know.
I'm actually going to have to try and play 2 suit now to make sure that because a lot of the times you hang on to them hoping, I've got a couple of oranges, I've got a couple of reds. Yeah, I'll save them, but no, I'm really sweating on this, and also the relief when you've played a high, someone better have it, and they play the highest go yes, I remember
thank you,
I'll buy a bowl of chips or something.
It's one of those games where in most trick-taking games you want to have what they call the hammer. You want to be last. In that game, it's not always best to be last because sometimes you're forced to play something. So it makes an interesting twist. It was funny. That was the Texas Showdown when I originally found it years ago was out of print for a long, long time. And a friend of mine from Canberra, Renee Soria, did me a favour and we played Texas Showdown together and he loved it. Couldn't find a copy anywhere. So as to pay him back for the favour that he did me, I had a custom set printed up for him.
Oh, that's lovely.
He's Mexican, so I sat down and did all the artwork with cactuses and chilies and sombreros and all the different Mexican symbols, and put them onto each of the card and had a custom set made for him and called it Mexican Standoff.
Oh, that's excellent. That's great.
I love that. Yeah. So Caesar Strife. I might. There might be a ban in place for talking about this game because I've talked about it a lot on the show, and I think
it's just the best. If you've got 6 players, there's nothing better than it.
Well, that's the other thing too, is I've ended up catching up with people and catching up with a lot of people at the same time, and it's one of the few games that plays at 6 and is really good. Whereas some games you play at 6 and it's like, we'll play it, but it's not its optimum. It's like, no, this is at its best with 6 because the cards get so thin and you force them play. Yeah, it is really, really good. So
my copy of Texas Showdown is so worn out. It's got marks and dirt all over it and that, but I love it because it shows how much the game has been played and loved. So it's horrible to look at, but it's beautiful. It's just so many memories with it.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So we've had Seas of Strife / Texas Showdown. Dana, talking about classics, you've gone with an Uwe classic.
I have, and
you
can see me scratching my head.
Why are you scratching your head?
You see me scratching my head as if it's in pain or whatever. Craig, you've been talking about I only design games that are fun. Well, I'm talking about Agricola. I had not played Agricola till about a month ago. So it was one of those games that I've always wanted to play because a lot of people talk about it. And I finally got a chance to play it. And I was looking at some chatter on Reddit about Agricola. And do you know it's called Misery Farm? Like people as a nickname call it Misery Farm.
Yeah, I guess. I
Understandable.
So, and actually it says, and someone pointed out as well that actually on the revised edition box under the actual name Agricola, it says the 17th century, not an easy period for a farmer.
Or anyone.
Yeah, so it's got a reputation for being very stressful as resources are very scarce in this game. It also has a scoring mechanism where you're encouraged and rewarded for doing a little bit of everything, but it's really hard. It's really hard to do that. I look at Agricola and I think the box, and I think if I didn't know it was Agricola, I would not even look at this game twice.
Come on.
It just doesn't look that interesting. It doesn't look that interesting. So I wouldn't normally play it. But anyway, I was so glad that I did. I'm sizzling this game because I think it's worthwhile to play, and it's done something to my brain where it's like cut it in half, and I'm actually not sure whether I really love it or I really hate it. So I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure yet. Anyway, it's a farming game. So you start with 2 workers, your spouses, and you start with a small farmhouse, and it's only big enough for the 2 of you to live in, and a bunch of empty pastures. And somehow you've got to build up your farm and feed everybody. And you'll be doing that by just ploughing fields and sowing pumpkins and wheat, and unfortunately raising animals and then slaughtering them. The tricky thing with this game is, one, that you've only got 2 workers. So you've got 2 workers, which means 2 actions per round, and it's 14 rounds. So if you just stick with those 2 workers, it's basically 28 turns. And in this game, that is not a lot. You can grow your family over the course of the game. That's really good because then you'll get extra actions. So instead of having 2 workers, you'll have 3 workers. But then you've got to feed them, and then you've got to find somewhere for them to live. Like you have to renovate your house. because they have to live in an additional space. There's not enough room.
Bloody
for
children are nothing but trouble.
I tell you what. But there's also like this issue, like with many worker placement games, where you can only have one worker on one space at a time. And so I've only played this game at 3 players, but in a 3-player game, there is only one space, like at the start of the game, to sow one field. And it is super competitive, super tight. This is a game where I feel like I'm just avoiding negativity. And I have never
100%. That's what it's about. It's about getting the highest
negative
score, but it's going to be negatives. Yeah.
But when I was playing this game, I remember I was sitting at a table with these ladies, and there were another set of ladies playing another game, and I can't remember what it was. And I was visibly like grabbing my collar and just sort of like adjusting my collar because I could feel like it was getting tight. And I was doing like you, Connor. You know how you get up and you go and take a walk when you crack the shits?
Lean up against the wall. Don't! It's a ruse. Everyone thinks I'm being serious.
Yeah, but anyway, I was serious. I had to take a breath because it was extremely stressful. And I looked over at these ladies and I was thinking, why am I playing this? Why can't I just play what they're playing? Why are we playing it? I must admit, this game got to me. There's a lot of variability in the game. It's not just about, placing workers and building out farms. An example is what's really interesting is that it has, event cards that come out with each round, which give you another worker placement spot. And those cards come out at varying times, like depending on how the cards are shuffled. The time when you get children could come out early or late, so that can sort of adjust your strategy. You know that your opportunity to get cattle, for example, is coming towards the end of the game, and you can plan for that. But sometimes it comes right at the end of the game, like right at the end, and then sometimes it comes a little earlier, so it can adjust what you need to do. The other thing is, what's really great about this game, and I'm just really making a comparison to Caverna because I've been playing it solo. It's got these cards which really change up the game, and they're called minor improvements and occupation cards. So a minor improvement might say, if you play that card, it might say, when you go and do this, you get 1 wheat or something like that. Of course, the only thing is that these cards change with every game. So you get dealt like a random set of cards. I think it's 7 of each. You get 7 occupations, 7 minor improvements. And, they actually recommend, and I've read people recommend that you should be given 10 minutes before the game to go through the cards.
Yeah.
Because these cards, you need to have a strategy of when to play these cards. They should be played in a specific order. And, man, you really need to nut this out if you're going to have any success in this game, because there's only one spot at the start of the game where you can even play an occupation or a minor improvement. And some of the occupations you need to play 3 minor improvements to be able to play them. And the occupations cost wood, and you need wood and it's so hard to get wood. It is so stressful. I can only put my hands on my head when I talk about this game.
Dana hasn't actually looked into the camera since she started talking.
No, she doesn't. No.
But it did something to me. I'm telling you, even though I had that reaction whilst playing it, and I did terribly during the game, I was pretty crap at it. I must admit, it was one of those games that I have thought about since, and I played it again since. And there's something very special about this design, about this game. I mean, this is one of his earlier designs, and the thought that has gone into this game is incredible. And when I think about the games on my shelf, and I've got like 300 games, I would consider this game to be top tier, in terms of its design. And it's got so many expansions that you can get, and they're just like little card decks, and it just changes the the cards that you can get dealt adds different things in, or it might have a different theme or something like that. But just in this one box, and you really don't need that. You don't need that at all. But just in this one box, there's so much in there. I'm actually in awe. I'm in awe of the game. And so whilst I said, like, I love it and then I hate it, I do have moments like that during the game. But overall, I have just this positive feeling about it. And if you ever get a chance to at least try it once, everybody should at least play this game.
I think so.
It's definitely a bucket list game. I agree. I dislike it, but you have to play it once. You've got to play it once. It is one of those classics, I think.
Yeah.
I do like Caverna better, and I like Feast for Odin the best. But I think that's because it sort of works everything from those games into those games. It works a bit better. But yeah, for sure, Agricola is amazing for how long ago it was made, and the fact that it was, one of his first designs. It's pretty incredible. It's cool. It's so good.
So I love you. I hate you. Try it.
Yeah.
Darren's exhausted.
There's so many games like that. The first time I played Ra, I had so many people say, "Oh, it's fantastic." I played it and I went, "I don't like that at all. It was just rubbish. I just had a bad game." Second time I played it, I suddenly realised the genius of that auction mechanism with the tiles, and I went, "Oh my God, that's clever." By the third time, it was just, no, this is a classic. This is so good. I think you really have to give a game more than one or two plays to really fully appreciate it.
Yeah, I played that for the first time a couple of months ago with all the new the 25th century remake. As soon as I had the first auction, I was like, yes, I can understand why people who don't like auction games like this game.
Yes. Yep.
So,
Yep.
And it is. And back to Agricola, it's like that farming sim. It's like it's hard, and in a way it's thematic. The fact that it's hard, you can't just make animals and have all these animals spare. I'm sure people do because, like I said, Feast for Odin is my favorite, and people play Feast for Odin and get these crazy scores, and I'm like, how? Like, how do you do that? But it's so good. So just to wrap up our Sizzling Games, we had Seas of Strife for the umpteenth time on the podcast, and Agricola, which has probably been talked about before. Then we'll head on to some news and announcements. So we've wrapped up our autumn game days with the City Game Day just the last weekend, and that means that it's all engines firing. I had a phrase I was going to use anyway. For PlayCon, the 11th to 13th of July. Craig, if you keep laughing at me, you won't be back. I'm kidding. So if you want tickets, there are very, very few 3-day passes left. Very, very few at this time of recording. So please, if you're interested in 3-day pass, please go and get them. Please get the T-shirts and, of course, any single-day tickets that you're looking for. All can be found at www.play-con.com. It is going to be just as good, if not better. It's definitely going to be better than last year. We've got so much cool stuff going on. We can't wait to talk about it. And the PlayCon bunny or the PlayCon pigeon is going to start making some posts once we get that all squared away. There may be someone who can neither confirm nor deny that, but that's going to be some fun times coming up. So yeah, if you're keen to come to PlayCon, please get your tickets. That's what I was trying to say. So we're in a bit of a strange spot in terms of recording where we haven't been able to access the new answers to the question of the pod. So instead, what I thought we would do is give our answers to the last question of the pod, which is, what's a unique board game mechanism that you still think about, and why did you like it? I'm going to go first, and my unique mechanism comes from Gloomhaven. Now, Gloomhaven has a lot of cool stuff, a lot of amazing stuff that made it the number one game on BGG for a while, but I think what ties it together are the multi-use cards, and the cards and having one action on the top, one action on the bottom, and the fact that when you have spent your cards, when you do the rest at the end, so similar to an RPG, when you do your rest, you have to either decide to get rid of one randomly or get rid of one that you choose. And I think that's really, really clever and really ties that puzzle element of the game together, because in a way it is a combat game, but it's at its heart that you've got to think your way through the encounters. So that really adds to the puzzle-like element that I really enjoy to Gloomhaven, those dual-use cards. Craig, I might give you a sec to think about something that you might like to talk about. And Dana, what was your one?
I think it would be dice drafting, or dice drafting, but then in some way you can manipulate the dice. There might be ways to manipulate the dice, and the game that comes to mind first of all is Sagrada.
Yes.
So I love just the way that you can change the numbers on the dice, and where you place the dice means something. But the other game that I haven't played in ages, I need to play again, is Role Player.
Mm-hmm.
I love Role Player. It was one of my early purchases, and I've always loved that, how you've got those special abilities where you place each of the dice gives you a way of changing other dice, and I love that. I love that. I actually hate dice. I hate dice as in rolling them and just relying on a dice roll, but I love drafting them and manipulating them. So that would be my choice.
It's nice when you've got mitigation.
Yeah,
your dice rolling.
Yeah.
The one I think about is Castles of Burgundy with the workers.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, that's fun. So, Craig, I'm putting you on the spot here. Can't say trick takers. That's my only caveat.
I wasn't going to. I think we've had more than enough trick takers to last several lifetimes. Drafting. I love card drafting. I love the different types of card drafting that happen. I love the sushi go, where you get a hand of cards, you take one and you pass it on. Take one, pass it on. Take one, pass it on. That's a lovely little mechanism, and it's so simple, and it makes the game really quick because everybody's doing something at exactly the same time. It came from Seven Wonders, but also the other types of drafting that as well, where Ticket to Ride, where you've got a line of cards and you can choose one of them or draw off the top as well, or even Seven Wonders Duel. I think that's one of my favourites, where you've got that shape of cards, and you can see some are face down, some are face up.
So good.
You can try and math out, if I do this, if I do that, they'll do this. I should be able to get that one. Those cards that give you 2 turns in a row can really screw you up over that one. I think that is also one of my favourite games as well. Seven Wonders Duel. It's just magnificent.
Yeah.
Every single game is so different, and I must have played it well over 100 times, let's say.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. And I don't think I've ever had 2 games play the same.
No.
Just that fall of the cards is astounding.
Have you played the Duel for Middle-earth?
Not yet. Sitting on the shelf, ready to go.
That's really good.
My wife will play if people come and stay, but she won't. She doesn't like playing for the games itself. So yeah, that's fair enough. She's got her own hobbies.
Yep.
No, very good. So a couple of mechanisms that I think just really tie games together. So that's awesome. Very good. So when the new question of the pod comes out, of course, you'll be able to answer it across all of our usual forums. Speaking of our community and our forums, if you want to support this podcast, you can always go to patreon.com/boardgamebbq. Sign up to donate to get exclusive podcast episodes that are recorded just for you, as well as other Patreon exclusive content, including our catch-up before PlayCon and before PAX, as well as different events that are run via Discord. Craig has come to a couple of them, and they've been an absolute blast. There are plenty of other ways to support the podcast, though, if you aren't in a position to donate. The easiest way is to tell your mates. You can go to Apple Podcasts and leave a star rating review for us, or use Spotify's star rating as well. It only takes a minute or seconds of your time even, but it means the world to us. We do need to find someone to start reading out these reviews again like we did for Dan. I don't know who I'm going to get to that. Maybe Lauren, just because Lauren needs more work. You can also get involved in the Board Game Barbecue community by following us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. We are uploading our audio to YouTube as well. And, of course, there is one of my favourite places to hang out, the Discord community, where there's always games going on, conversations, people in the channels come in and have a chat. It's also where we host a lot of our Patreon events as well. Get involved and support the show. All the links are in the show notes. All right, we will round out this very, very fun episode with something that has got us fired up. Go on, Dana.
I am. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Sorry, I forgot.
I'd love the analysis of our episodes about how many people get through to that point, and that's come up.
Was that are you a coffee machine?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a bit phlegmy today.
So this is where we talk about something that's got us fired up and excited. Craig, what's got you fired up and excited? What's something that's happening?
Oh, well, PlayCon's coming up, so I'm really excited about that. I'm waiting. I've been waiting for almost 18 months for a game to come from Dean, which is a kind of trick-taking adjacent game, if you want to call it that. Dracula versus Van Helsing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, 2-player game of hidden roles where you're trying to. Van Helsing's trying to kill Dracula, and Dracula's trying to turn people into vampires. Been waiting 18 months. It's finally turned up. I'm hoping to pick it up from Dean shortly. Can't wait to play it.
Oh,
awesome.
wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah. Also being talked about on the show. Dana, what are you excited about? What's got you fired up now that you've cleared your throat?
Yeah, that's it. I am excited about the Sydney Game Day. Oh, no, but that's already happened. Can I say that? Oh, I don't know. It's weird. We're in like some kind of time warp.
It's a time warp.
Anyway, yeah, whatever. Anyway, it's the Sydney Game Day. I'm looking forward to seeing you, even though I would have already seen you, Craig, at the Sydney Game Day.
We had a great time.
Been excited about it. It happened. So
yeah, it hasn't happened yet, but it would have happened anyway. In the future, it would have happened. But I'm very excited about that. I haven't been to a Sydney Game Day before, so I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm sort of coupling it with a couple of days away with my husband in Sydney. So I'm very excited about that
Very
too.
nice.
I'll be teaching Creature Caravan.
yeah, nice. Oh, yeah, you talked about that one.
On the pod. Yeah,
cool.
so I'm teaching that. So I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to it.
I love the Sydney Game Day. It's so good. I mean, we've got 3, but it's definitely in my top 3. So no, I do. I like going to catch with my friends. I'm excited because finally I've got a couple of Kickstarters coming. I haven't had Kickstarters delivered for so long. So hopefully by the time this episode is dropped, I will have Dragon Eclipse, which is a card game. Hopefully the Elder Scrolls is coming soon. And I've also got coming the Skara Brae and the Anarchy from Garfield Games.
Wow.
So if the Anarchy arrives before what I'm excited about, this is my next one, which is a gaming weekend with a whole bunch of our friends. So we are going up to Queensland, and I'll be able to catch up with you, Dana,
Yep.
a whole heap of our friends. So if I have it by then, I will bring the Anarchy up. So hopefully that arrives before then. And if not, I guess I'll just have to hang out and play the other games over there. So that's all good. But yeah, lots of cool stuff happening, lots of cool events. We're very excited. And that does bring us to the end of our episode. Craig, thank you so much for coming on. It was so great to see you again and to have a chat to you and to give your insight into game design. I think lots of people get heaps out of it.
No, thank you guys. Thank you so much for the invite. It's I'm not worthy. I'm doing the
Yeah, Wayne's World. Yeah, no.
Wayne's World, that was it, yeah.
You are very worthy and very welcome to come on here again. You did a really good job keeping Dana in line, so thank you for that.
Shocker.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
No, pleasure.
Did you think this was going to be a professional outfit?
Well, it is compared to me.
Oh, God.
Hey, Dana, good to see you again.
Yep.
And I'll be seeing you in a couple of days.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the time warp. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See you in a couple of days.
This is so good. I love this one. Just ruined you. You thought Agricola was bad in your brain. You trying to work out when it's going to release and what day it is even better.
Yeah.
And of course, thank you to all our sponsors, so Advent Games, More Than Meeples, and our patrons, and of course you guys as listeners. We thank you so much for listening to us and hanging out with us when you can. Keep playing games, and we'll talk to you again soon. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
That's it.